All right. So this is going to be the longest segment of the night. And I know we live in a hyper technological world where if we're not thrown into entertainment in 5 seconds, we need to go find our dopamine somewhere. But I need you to shut the hell up and let me cook. Got it? Cool. I'm not speeding through this. I'm making my case. And if you don't like it, oh well. The instant oatmeal, because sometimes I find myself doing it. Sometimes I literally have on my phone, my MacBook, and my television at the same time watching 3 different things, and they're not even football games. Sometimes it's like somebody's getting, unalived over here, and there's some documentary on here, and then something going on. Yeah, this is the moment to just give me a moment to cook. Give me a moment because I gotta make this point very, very, very clear. During his victory speech on Tuesday, New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani said, quote, "We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve." If that didn't alarm you, I don't know what will, especially if you're a conservative, especially if you are not into big government, because that is not the government's responsibility to solve your problems. But as soon as I heard that, it reminded me of this quote from one of the greatest presidents of all time, Ronald Reagan.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Now, as I said in my intro, I want to make it so I'm not being charged with misinformation. So I want to use these people's words. I don't want me to just say that they said something. I want them to use their own words and really prove my point so nobody can say that I'm lying or I'm Islamophobic or I don't like Muslims or whatever theory you want to pull out there. I want to make it very, very clear. I don't hate anybody. And I'd have to know you personally to hate you, or you'd have to do something really bad to me personally for me to hate you. Mhm. So, upon the victory of Zorhan Mamdani, Muslims poured into the streets of New York City and said,
"We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadan Rasulullah! There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
"Isn't it funny how the facade of peace and unity dropped within a couple of hours of Zorhan Mamdani being elected mayor? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Because if I just said that the facade dropped, TikTok would have said, "Oh, he's lying, misinformation. Take his live stream down for 7 days." Even Mondami went from mild-mannered, even keel kind of person, "Oh, cool. I'm just a cool dude, just trying to run for mayor," to sounding like his radical ancestors. His victory speech, I mean, it was one of the most angry, divisive things I've ever heard in my life. I've never heard somebody in a victory speech tell the person they just defeated, "I hope I never see you again." Donald Trump has never even said anything like that in a victory speech. And let me be clear. As I just said, I don't hate Muslims. I have Muslims in my family. I have cousins who still send me a whole bunch of stuff. I don't watch most of it, but whatever, they're free to send it. I'm not going to tell them not to send it. I don't share my beliefs with them because I'm not interested. You know, I like to spend my time where I know it's going to be valued. But if they want to share something, let them share it. They're not telling me I have to do something. They're not telling me what I believe is wrong. We have a clear understanding. Well, you believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. And I don't hate people who pray to other gods, even if it's outside of Islam. My gripe is with marketing extremism under the guise of Americanism. That's my issue. Now, before you start calling me all the other things, before TikTok takes me down for misinformation, again, let me process their words. Let them tell you in their own words.
Now it's getting through Congress. So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only two things which are open to our movements: ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad. That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets, but the ballot.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
So let's get straight to it. What we're seeing right here, right now, isn't some conspiracy theory. It's the reality of extremist ideologies finding their way into the halls of power. I'm talking about people who don't assimilate into American values, who exploit the system for influence, and who use promises that sound good on the surface: free housing, free transportation, free perks. And this is what they use to build loyalty. This is how they win you over. Mhm. Look at what's happening right now with Mondamni in New York City. He's promising programs that echo the same tactics used by the former supreme leader of Iran, Ruhollah Khomeini. During the 1979 Iranian Revolution, giving people benefits in exchange for loyalty and ideological alignment. Now, let's be clear. The difference between a mayor in New York and a supreme leader in Iran is checks and balances. A mayor cannot raise taxes at will. A mayor cannot ignore courts, city councils, or existing boards. There are limits in a democratic system. And that's why promises like free everything are largely symbolic and not executable. But don't get it twisted. Extremism doesn't need full control. It'll be dangerous. That's where we tend to it's just New York City. No, 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 no. Even a foothold is a foothold. It's the unholy marriage of ideology and opportunism. A soft penetration into political systems that can share policy, that can shape policy, narratives, and culture over time. Extremists, regardless of ideology, operate the same way. They take what the host offers, exploit the system, and gradually try to expand influence. It's very parasitic. And while our Constitution, our elections, and our checks and balances make the United States resilient, history shows that power vacuums and inattention can be exploited. That's my friendly way of saying really get woke. Not that stupid woke, the real woke. Now, let's talk assimilation for a moment. Extremist movements often rely on creating parallel systems in communities, not integrating into the host society. They may form social networks, financial structures, and educational systems that reinforce their ideology. That's how they maintain influence over followers and ensure ideological continuity. If unchecked, they can translate that into political influence, whether through lobbying, local elections, or controlling narratives. Now, New Yorkers and all Americans need to understand that limits of government, the limits, the actual limits of government promises. Big government doesn't mean better results. Bigger government opens doors for manipulation. And the free things politicians promise, often it's just smoke and mirrors, baby. Free buses, free housing, free utilities. Sounds great on Instagram, but in reality, checks and balances, funding limitations, and bureaucracy mean it's simply not going to happen. Sometimes you need people to learn the hard way, touch that hot stove. You can't buy real change with free giveaways. You can only govern responsibly, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's be clear. I'm not fear mongering. This isn't fear mongering. It's about being awake to patterns we've seen across the world. Look at Iran, look at Syria, look at countries in North Africa. Extremist elements infiltrate politics gradually, and they've been doing it since the 90s. They use social programs, community services, and ideology to build influence. And before you know it, the government starts bending to their vision, a la New York. The lessons there are clear. Freedom doesn't survive without vigilance. Stay woke. And that's why this is an uncomfortable conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't say it was going to be nice. I didn't say it was going to be cute. It should make you uncomfortable. We value religious freedom here in the United States, and we always will. But extremism of any stripe does not respect freedom. Let's be very, very clear. We heard it 2 takes ago. It doesn't respect pluralism. It doesn't respect dissent. And if we fail to notice the political tactics extremists use here, we risk repeating mistakes others have already made abroad. So let's tie this together. Extremist ideologies, whether in the Middle East or anywhere else, use promise, ideology, and exploitation to gain political leverage. Here in the US, we have safeguards, elections, courts, media, civil society. But we must, and I'm going to emphasize this till I am done breathing, we must remain attentive. The real woke. We cannot let soft infiltration go unchecked, because even small influence in city councils, local boards, and legislatures can ripple outward. And history shows what happens when citizens are unaware or apathetic. We're talking about real world consequences, loss of rights, erosion of institutions, and the slow reshaping of society in ways that run counter to our Constitution. No bull. The anecdote is simple: proper education, vigilance, and active participation in our constitutional republic. Allah, don't lay there like a dumb possum. Wake up. Know who's running, what they promise, how they operate. And then the most important part, you must hold them accountable. Politicians aren't our friends. Donald Trump is not I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I hired Donald Trump to do a job. And you best believe if I see him BSing me, I'm calling him out. It's not, yay, everything Trump does is great. No. Sometimes I'm like, I don't understand it. That's stupid. No. We don't need to be pushing resources here. We don't need to be supporting this country. We don't need to be supporting more these proxy wars. That's how, ladies and gentlemen, we prevent extremist ideologies from gaining traction here in America. America has always been resilient because citizens care enough to check power, not just once, but constantly. This is the fight that never ends, preserving freedom, pluralism, and constitutional governance while remaining aware that extremism doesn't need to topple a nation overnight. It only needs a toe in the door. Stay aware, stay informed, protect your cities, your communities, and your constitution because the patterns are there. The tools are obvious, and history has already taught us that the cost of ignoring them. And only in 2025 America can you in real time dig up hypocritical statements of political candidates and they still win elections by wide margins.
You want to see a liar?
I want to say it very clearly. I will not defund the police.
Lie.
I am in favor of defunding the police.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Oh, wait, another lie.
I was speaking about Zerafui, my father's cousin.
Doesn't wear a hijab.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety.
Maybe he's telling the truth on this one. Oh, wait, nope, lie.
The struggle for Palestinian liberation was at the core of my politics and continues to be. I am not, and nor have I ever called for the legalization of prostitution.
You guessed it, lie.
You support decriminalizing prostitution?
Yes, my fundamental belief that sex work is work. I would be happy to work with the president and the administration.
Lie.
We need to be doing here in our city is to end the chapter of collaboration between City Hall and the federal government.
I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech.
Lying again.
There are consequences for speaking up in favor of apartheid.
So just find out who you're voting for before you vote who you're voting for.
Boom. So now, right quick in closing, I want to address the liberals, the white liberal women more specifically, but the liberal women in general, because it's your fault that we have this person in New York City. This person was elected, I should say. I want to talk about how you were sold a pipe dream, how the narrative was shaped, how the political leverage was used, and how the ideology of socialism got wrapped into it. So you were told once upon a time, you were 20-something years old, focus on your career, delay marriage, delay kids, go into debt for the prestige, for the labels, for that university. You'll have the freedom, you'll have the house, the independence, you'll live the best life. But now let's fast forward to 2025. You wake up one day at 45 years old and you're wondering, where did all the time go? The beach house in Kansas is a metaphor for what you were promised. The stability, the comfort, the payoff. Instead, you're floating. Career still ongoing, debt still clinging, maybe no spouse, maybe no children, and now you're mad. So you're hell-bent on revenge. You want to get revenge on the system that sold you the dream and never delivered it. And here comes the political side. In the 2025 U.S. races for gubernatorial seats, mayoral races, state elections, young women and liberal women turned out in strong numbers for candidates who don the socialist label, or at least progressive big government agendas. For instance, one poll shows a major shift amongst Democrats. Only 42% view capitalism positively, while 66% view socialism positively. Another data point in the Zohar Mamdani New York City mayoral race, young female voters under 30 apparently backed him in massive numbers. You see how that works? It's called the pitch. So you as an older woman should be up on game and should be warning these young women, but you're not. You've been screwed by the system, the 9 to 5, the debt, the college loans, the lack of real payoff. We'll rebuild, we'll redistribute, we'll fight the elites, we'll give you justice. And liberal women, especially those delayed in marriage and kids and bank on career success, were receptive because the dream sold to you was about freedom, empowerment, options. The left said, yeah, you get freedom, plus social safety nets, plus sharing the wealth, plus a society that has your back. So you vote that way. You cast your ballot for the ideology that promised more than just survival. But here's the catch. Did these candidates win because of the working class? Did they win because they actually built bridges to people who work freight trucks, who stand on assembly lines, who face the daily grind? Not always. In the New York City race, Mondami's base leaned younger, college educated, more affluent. You see how the story flips? It flips the system. You were told to fight now. Things you were told to fight for now becomes the vehicle you ride in. The university educated liberal woman, the delayed marriage career professional becomes the bedrock of a political shift. And now you're here. Debt lingering, promises still echoing, your anger turned toward the system, and you've aligned with big government solutions that promise to fix the system. But the question you got to ask yourself, who's running that big government? Who benefits? And are you going to be the one left holding the bag or the one calling the shots? Because when playback happens, you'll realize the pipe dream was sold to you, packaged with empowerment, culture, and all that stuff you bought into. And now you're demanding change with your powdered eggs and your dried up breast milk. But make no mistake, change doesn't mean you escape the debt and detours. Sometimes it means you just change the narrative. So, yeah, liberal women, especially liberal white women, you played your part. You backed the candidates. You backed the message. You backed socialism's rising star. And now it's your turn to see what comes next. Are you really free, or are you just a rider on the next train of political promises? Ladies and gentlemen, you've been warned. Now let's turn it up a little bit. This is our turntable rewind.